Hey there guys and gals, I just wanted to start this video out by showing you the recipe that I'm going to be doing today and to introduce myself to you. My name is Lyndon, I'm an American living in Norway, and I've been brewing since about 2015. As many of you know, I run an Instagram page called Mastering Homebrew, mainly to give my wife a little relief from all the homebrew talk. Some people have expressed their interest in me starting a YouTube channel, so this is my very first shaky attempt in doing so. Just a little background, I am currently not at home, but we are up in the north of Norway while my wife works at a small local hospital to excel in her career. This has left me carting my brewery around the country, so I'm forced into bathrooms or onto the back porch on the rare, sunny, beautiful days that we have up here. I really do hope you enjoy it, and let's get right into it. I start by heating my hot liquor tank to 80 degrees Celsius to get it ready for transfer to the mash tun. I also preheat my mash tun to around 50 to 60 degrees with tap water to eliminate too much temperature loss when transferred. I use a 3-roller monster mill with a gap set using feeler gauges to 0.040ths of an inch. This helps maintain a fairly fine crush that shreds the husk to help create a natural filter when the grain bed is set. And this will help aid in recirculation to get the most out of my wort. With all of my malt milled and my hot liquor tank to temperature, it's time to transfer the hot liquor over to the mash tun. I use a Blickman Riptide pump to underlet 16 liters of hot liquor into my mash tun. Once the hot liquor is transferred, its temperature is at about 70 degrees Celsius. It is now time to add the grain. Lots of people will add the grain before adding the hot liquor and underlet it straight to the grain. I don't like to do this because I have found that the fluctuations in temperature vary based on my grain bill. I also want to make sure I'm adding the correct amount of hot liquor. I have found it's easier to have to stir down to your mashing temperature rather than have to bring the temperature up to get to your correct temps. This beer is a Saison, so it will be mashed at 65 degrees Celsius. Once the mash has been going for about 30 minutes, I'll give it a good stir. After another 20 minutes, I'll then begin the whirlpool process. This process will remove all of the larger chunks of grain that have passed through the false bottom and put them back on top of the grain bed. This process also sets the grain bed to create a natural filter with the husks of the grain. Keeping an eye on the sight glass will let me know when most of the larger chunks of grain have been recirculated out. When I'm satisfied, I'll switch from the Vorloff attachment to the recirculation manifold. This will help redistribute the wort evenly and help against channeling in the grain bed. The manifold will also help me create a nice even sparge when the time comes. After about 15 to 20 minutes, it's now time to stop the recirculation and plug the hot liquor tank back into the mash tun via the recirculation manifold. I'll then gravity feed the wort from the mash tun into the kettle. I typically heat my sparge water to 80 degrees Celsius. I start the sparge when the wort level is 2 inches above the grain bed. The temperature of the sparge water, once exiting the pump, is in the mid-70s. I will use an additional 12 liters of sparge water on this batch to reach a pre-boil volume of 25 liters. Now with the kettle filled and the steam condenser hooked up, we can now start the boil. Before using a condenser, I had my induction hob set to 10 watts with a temperature of 240 set. With the help of my steam condenser, I can now boil at 5 watts and maintain a vigorous boil at 185. Also, with no steam and no smell, my wife complains a lot less. Now that the boil's coming to an end, it's time to hook up the whirlpool arm and sanitize the hoses and the pump. I usually run Star San through the hoses and the pump, but I like to do this just for good measure. Sorry about the dodgy camera work, but this proved to be a little more difficult than I expected. Now that the boil's over, I can add my wort chiller. I'm using the Jaded Hydra immersion chiller, and I have found it's one of the most efficient chillers I've tried to date. It can chill down to pitching temperature on average in about 11 minutes. Didn't exactly go in straight, and sorry for this dodgy camera work, as it was a little more complicated than I had originally thought. With the whirlpool coming to an end and my wort getting down to pitching temperature, I can start the transfer to the fermenter. With the pump on full, I've found it gives me pretty good aeration. I'm going to add my yeast, the Mad Fermentation and Saison blend from Bootleg Biology. Then I'll add my tilt so I can keep track of fermentation, and my airlock. Thanks for watching my first YouTube video, and please let me know if you'd like to see more, and also if you'd like to see some more recipe-based videos. Thanks and cheers.